Well, Wednesday in Milwaukee, Republicans will hold their first presidential debate for the 2024 election. But their frontrunner, former President Donald Trump, says he won't be in attendance. New CBS News polling shows Trump with a growing lead over his challengers. Our survey found 62% of likely primary voters support Trump. Governor Ron DeSantis is second with just 16%. Others are in the single digits. And this polling comes as the deadline for Trump and 18 others to surrender to Georgia authorities over alleged efforts to overturn his 2020 loss in that state remains this Friday at noon. So to help us break down the numbers now, Anthony Salvanto is joining us. He is, of course, CBS News' Executive Director of Elections and Surveys. Good to have you here. So there was all sorts of speculation as to whether or not Donald Trump would be participating in the debate. And, you know, there is obviously a feeling that if there's no benefit for him, why would he put himself in that position? Looks like he's choosing not to go. Could this impact how well he's doing so far?
Yeah, well, let's underline that word you just used, how well, right? The size of this lead is large, and large may be an understatement here, right? If the elections were today, he's the nominee. This is who Republicans say they're going to nominate, okay? So with that, plus the fact that, as you said at the top, we've seen that increase now since our last poll. This is the largest lead that he's had in our polling.
Wow, okay.
So it's going in his direction anyway. Let me answer the second part of that question, and it's this. I think the other candidates are in something of a box. Typically, in a debate like this, there isn't really a debate like this, but typically, you would see people trailing a front runner maybe start to take shots at that front runner, right? We know that Republican voters do not want that. In fact, look at how lopsided this is, given the choice. Okay, make the case for yourselves, they say about the other candidates at the debate. They do not want to hear critiques of Donald Trump, and that's been really the case throughout the polling. So well, what do you do? What do you watch? You know, that's the box there.
I mean, I don't know, but I'm thinking that Donald Trump is going to come up in the debate because there are sort of legitimate issues like, you know, would you pardon him? Some of them have been asked. Should he be found guilty? What do we got? Okay.
When you said that, it gave me an idea to show you the slide because it's really important. Is he going to come up? Well, voters say that this campaign has already been too much about Donald Trump. And that's not necessarily what they want to hear. Now, look, some of that is Republicans saying this is too much about hearing about his legal fights. They don't want to hear about that. That's the reason behind this.
Right.
But to your point, they would rather hear about things like the economy, frankly, about fighting inflation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I do have one more Donald Trump question then.
Go ahead.
You've heard the former president say in some of his stump speeches, you know, it's one more indictment and we got this thing sealed up. For him, all this stuff he feels makes him stronger. Certainly his fundraising numbers would indicate that. How do the voters feel about him now that we've had one more indictment come down?
And that's really so important. For one thing, among many reasons his voters are giving us to support him. They liked his track record. They like how he did as president, thinks he fights for them, all of that.
Yeah.
But among those reasons, 3/4 almost say that they're showing support for him in his legal fights. So it's rallying them. It's a bit of a buoy there as well. And I want to contextualize this a little bit. The Republican base, the Trump voter, has told us that they feel the system, the U.S. political system, is corrupt. Now, lots of people say it's dysfunctional in the polling, but they in particular feel it's corrupt. Juxtaposed against that, they're telling us they see Donald Trump as their truth teller. Against that system. And so we're seeing them say they feel Donald Trump tells them the truth even more than things like friends and family, like conservative media figures as well.
And religious leaders.
And that, I think, really underpins what you're seeing here in this dynamic, where they're not just rallying to them, but they're seeing him as fighting for them and telling them the truth against a system that they feel isn't working, that they tell us they feel is corrupt. And that is an interesting dynamic. I think it speaks to larger decline of faith in institutions that we're seeing in the country, right? And this is when a particular individual then has people who are voting for him that feel like he's the one telling them the truth.
So given all of this, how the voters are feeling about all of the candidates, but in particular what Donald Trump has been going through, what sort of debate can we expect? What are we expecting to see? If they can't sort of go after Donald Trump, I mean, I guess you could go after the sort of the secondary person, which would be Ron DeSantis, but I mean, he's doing well, but not that well.
Yeah, no, he's fallen back, quite frankly.
In fact, he's been losing, hasn't he been losing? And I'm kind of curious as to where some of his supporters are going.
Yeah, he's been falling back. His consideration is down. Obviously, his vote choice is down. His electability measure is down in the polling. And that's really important to people, right? It's always the case in a primary. Voters want that person they think can beat the opposition. They think Donald Trump can beat Joe Biden. That is an overwhelming feeling among them. And DeSantis has declined on that measure as well. So that's part of that explanation. But then your other question about what do we expect? I think there's at least sort of a political market opening here for talking about policy plans, lowering inflation, reducing crime, for Republicans stopping illegal immigration. These are all things they say it's important to hear candidates' plans about. And that's something that a lot of folks think has been missing from the campaign so far. Do they get specific and not talk as much about Trump? We'll see.
We will see. All right, Anthony, thank you so much.
Thanks.